Now let's go a little bit deeper into the Hypershade window and show you how to create materials from scratch. I have a scene here with a sphere, and there's really nothing in it. The sphere has a basic Lambert 1 material on it, so it's kind of an empty scene here. So let's go ahead into our Hypershade window. And in that, you'll see that we really don't have a lot. We just have that one Lambert material plus a few other things. So let's go ahead and create a new material in the Hypershade. Now we can do that simply by clicking on the Maya tab here and clicking on Blend, and that will create a blend material. Now that material shows up in the browser, and if I click on it, you'll see that I've got this basic material. Now if I want to, I could change the color of that material. As you can see, it shows up here in the material viewer. Now, if I want to add textures to this, I can do it the old-fashioned way, and I can click on this little checker here, and we can create a node. So let's go ahead and create a checker material. And notice how when I do that, it automatically creates this node and connects it in. So I've got my blend 1, and notice how now I have the little down arrow that goes into checker 1. Now, checker 1, if we scroll in here in our node editor, you'll see that we've got this little line going from out color here into color here, and this is this connection. So if I want to, I can change that. So if I left click on this line, notice how it highlights. I can remove it by just left clicking, pulling it off, and letting go. And now we default back to that, and notice how that connection goes away. This is a great way to disconnect things in Maya. But let's say we wanted that checker to be on transparency instead. So all I have to do is left click and drag, and we can plug this in wherever we want. So if we go down to the bottom, you'll see we have transparency, let go, and now this is transparent. If I want, I could plug this into multiple ones. So if I pull this out and plug it into color, it'll now have a checker color on top of checker transparency. Now, if we want to, we can also create other types of nodes and plug them in. So let's say I wanted something else to affect the color of transparency. All I have to do is create another node and plug it in. So I'm going to go over to my Create tab here and go into 2D textures. And so let's pick a 2D texture to plug in. Let's go ahead and use cloth. And if I click on this, notice how it brings it in, but it doesn't connect it to anything. All I did was create the node. I didn't tell Maya where to put it. So let's go ahead and zoom in just a little bit here and take the out color of cloth 1 and plug it into transparency. And when I do, you'll notice that now that color controls the transparency. So if I dial it down, you can see how we can affect the transparency of that object. Now what we've done here is we've simply created a blend 1 render node. Now if I minimize this window here, you'll see that I'm not seeing it on my object itself. Now if I wanted to, I could go into lighting shading, assign existing material, and now blend 1 shows up here. I can also select it and right click above it and do assign existing material. So if I select blend 1, it will now apply, and if I turn on hardware texturing, that will apply to that object. Now I can also apply directly from the Hypershade window. So if I go back into Hypershade, let's go ahead and scale this down so we can see this a little bit better. I can select my object and then hover over any one of these, right click on it and say assign to selection. And when I do that, it assigns that material to selection. So if I hover over blend 1, assign material to selection, there we go. So as you can see, the Hypershade is a very powerful window. It allows you not only to manage materials, but to create new materials entirely from scratch and edit their nodes visually so you can connect together all sorts of different attributes and create very customizable materials.